Hey everybody, it's Tatiana again. Nice to see you all. I hope you've been enjoying the panels today and doing lots of shopping at the show. I'm really excited to have this panel now with Jeremy Wilson, who is another artist that I do work with, but I've known Jeremy for quite a long time, and I'm a big fan of his work. So I have a couple paintings of Jeremy's that are not up right now because I'm not in my usual space. But really excited to have Jeremy on today to talk about his process, some of the pieces that he's worked on. We have a giveaway that I'll talk about a little bit later, and then where you can get Jeremy's art. So, Jeremy, thanks for joining us today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So, why don't you just jump right in and just start talking to us about your work?
Okay. So for today, what I thought would be the best thing to do is to pull down a few selections that are good examples of how I approach things conceptually when with comics given a script, especially when it's, a script and then the art brief itself is somewhat vague, where it's really just totally open and I can do anything. So I've pulled a few from that. I've got the Inquisitors variant from number 2 behind me right now. I've also got another Marvel cover and a few DC covers for the series Plunge that was back in 2021, I believe, or 2020. It's hard to remember when I worked on something and when it came out, because that can always depend. And then I do have a metal painting that if you were not at OAX or did not get the chance to see it, I do have it here with me. So yeah, so this is Inquisitors 2 variant for Marvel, and it's been great to work with them. They tend to give me like pretty open-ended ideas. And so they told me that they wanted these 3 characters shown: Vader, Fifth Brother, and Grand Inquisitor. And when I got the script, I'm reading through this whole thing. I don't even think I had any sort of panels yet, which is common for me. I don't know about other cover artists, but a lot of times I'll have to design something based on simply the script. And so anyway, as I'm reading this whole this script, and again, it's also one of these like first drafts things where there's like red lines redacted through something or whatever, so you try to figure out what are they keeping and all that. But through that, I am trying to hit upon some sort of conceptual point, somewhere that you can sort of funnel the overall idea of the comic into. And so in this case, it was all about how Grand Inquisitor he's got Fifth Brother on the ground hunting for such and such Jedi, but he's reporting directly back to Vader, and it's these sort of cuts between it. And so ultimately, what I picked up on the concept was the hierarchy of how it was. We had all this action and everything, but behind it all, that's how the story beats were kind of broken up. And as such, then I decided, as I'm doing my thumbnails, okay, well, I'm going to design it in the hierarchy itself. So Vader at the top, Grand Inquisitor, Fifth Brother, literally putting them in that, but then also in the same shape. And yeah, I think that's probably one of the easiest examples as far as what I'm trying to hit conceptually for something. But Tatiana, you okay if I just switch them out and keep moving?
Well, I had a question for you. So
Sure.
you mentioned in the script, you'll get the script, but there's a lot of stuff that's kind of redacted in there. I'm assuming it's things that you can't know about yet, or they don't want to share. So how do you work around that?
There's not a whole lot of communication on that, so it just kind of exists in a Word document, whatever format it is. It's just something that I'm seeing, and I don't know if it's taken out of it. I say redacted, it's not totally redacted. It's like things that they've crossed out of the script. And so I don't know if it is a spoiler or if it is some sort of story process or if it's simply just it didn't fit with the word count or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just kind of hard to figure out like exactly what it is they want you to do when it is that that open-ended. So
How often do you have challenges where you're interpreting what they're sending you, and you send them over some sketches, and it's just like not what they intended at all, and then you have to kind of reconvene and figure that out? Does that ever happen?
oh yeah, it doesn't happen. I mean, it's somewhat uncommon. It totally depends. It's always nice to get we freaking love this, absolutely go ahead, go to final. It kind of depends on the IP. When you're dealing with something like Lucasfilm, I've got two sets of people there that I'm talking to. I'm sending it to Marvel. They really have to get the okay from Lucasfilm. And so there is that conversation. So I have to make sure in that instance that I'm representing two brands well. So there's just more conversation. So when I work on things like Magic, there's so much planning that goes into a set that sometimes the comments you can't necessarily understand exactly why they're making comments or changes. You just kind of need to go with it because they've got a massive team of people working on it.
Yeah, when Sia did some covers for the Magic comic book, and that was, and I was on a lot of the emails, and that was a whole other level, because again, you're working with two companies, and it's those layers, and it is really interesting to see where you run into issues, and maybe it was fine with IDW, but then it was not fine with WotC or vice versa. And I'm sure it's this, like you said, the same thing with any Star Wars IP, because you have the extra layer to go through.
Yeah. Sorry, I've got my phone here. It's working great. I'm just trying to read these comments from a distance.
So Tina had asked about the redaction, but I think you answered that. So it's
Okay.
not necessarily redacted, but it's things that might be crossed out for different reasons.
For whatever reason, yeah. Yeah, and I'm going to hit on this a little bit later. When I worked on the Plunge series that was written by Joe Hill, Stuart Immonen was penciler, and then Dave Stewart was colors. That was, I think that will be a good example to sort of answer a lot of those questions, because I was sort of brought in from not the ground up, but I guess early enough that there were not a lot of visuals for me to work with. So actually a lot of the covers are my own design based on what they told me the story was about, without any pencils from Stuart. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't have the luxury of having all the character turnarounds and everything already available to you.
Yeah.
And I will say, from my experience, Tina, even beyond that, NDAs only cover so many things. And so you can be under NDA with a company, but they might still have information that can't be shared out, not even to people who are under the NDA. So it might be beyond what's covered with the NDA, or it might be beyond the scope of the current project, even though it can affect the current project. And so sometimes you have to work around things in a way that is not straightforward.
Levels of clearance.
Yeah, exactly.
And
then
I'm
we just
probably very
highlighted the
shallow.
comment from Stingray saying that Plunge was a great book. So
it was a cool book. I'm a little surprised it didn't, or it hasn't yet. I don't know. I feel like Joe's gotten so many things adapted for TV or something like that it felt like it was perfect for that. But
so speaking of Plunge, do you want to take the plunge and show us some Plunge art?
sure, yeah. Long ago, the actual telescoping thing broke on my easel, so I now just have a series of screws that get put in until they.
Hey, you make it work, right?
Yep. I've had this for a long time. Sorry, some of the frames are a little bit bigger than others. So this is so I was the main cover artist on the series, and Gary Frank, I believe, was the variant artist. This was issue number 5. So when working on Plunge, I was given essentially a slide deck that was basically a big mood board. Um, so, they said, this is what it is. Here's parts of the story that we have. These are sort of what the costumes are like, which at the time it was, everybody was like very much like oil rig workers. So I was doing a lot of research into different types of oil carrying ships in order to represent that somewhat accurately. And yeah, so at this point, I do have. It's interesting if you look at 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to show you 4. But if you're looking at the book and you see the 1, 2, and 3, I have no visuals yet at all. So I'm basing everything on what oil container ships look like. These sort of costumes that they say they have. This sort of cross between the Thing and an oil rig worker, and I'm going with that. It wasn't until issue 4 that I actually had some pencil work, and so I was able to sort of figure out what likenesses to try and capture. They didn't seem to be too concerned about it. I got models that I thought were pretty appropriate to get my likenesses from. But this is the 5th cover. Like I said, I pulled this one because this was so open-ended. I did utilize some far more conceptual. I would consider them, well, they're not super deep, but I used some more conceptual techniques in order to create the scene that that Joe is trying to describe, and Stuart visually. So, I guess spoiler alert, I don't know, it's been out for a while, but at this point they're, I believe, under the water, but essentially they've discovered this sort of elder god type race, and there's all these sorts of monuments to them, pillars. There's all these giant versions of the parasites that turn people into the hive mind, so to speak. And what I did was I represented multiple times throughout the series on issue 1, 4, 5, and 6. I did this printmaking technique. I carved out, this is from number 4, but I used linoleum cuts and I carved out the actual shapes for the parasites. Because conceptually, to me, they were always supposed to be represented as, again, a hive mind, this sort of overall incalculable shape. So for me to paint each one individually felt just totally off base there. So anyway, I carved these. These are the ones from the actual pillars. And I would use a brayer to put paint on it and then lay them down, and then put them, get the register from the print on there, or excuse me, from the paint. And then I would paint around it to get that. So it gives you more of the illusion of, it's sort of like giving you the illusion of the monster without showing you the monster a little bit, if that makes any sense. And so the next one was the first time, again, I got to have a likeness.
I think that's really cool that you're sharing that with us too, because I think, as collectors, we often just assume, oh, it's just all painted. We don't think about what those techniques might be besides just using, going in there with regular tools and just painting it. Like that there could be some different and unique techniques that you're using.
Yeah, I will often change my brushwork. On the simplest side, I will use directional brushstrokes to indicate form. And then sometimes I will change my brushstrokes to indicate, again, more of a concept of a piece. For instance, if the piece is very aggressive and frenetic, I will mimic that in the brushwork in areas that I can. Obviously I go in and I render the faces, the hands, the body and everything. But if you look at something that's supposed to have some action to it, there'll usually be some pretty frenetic type brushstrokes or mark making in there. So this is the fourth cover. And so if you're looking all around here, that is dozens and dozens of registers from this one block print, both additive and reductive. If you're seeing it here on top of the red is the acrylic underpainting. This is the paint on top. And then if you look up here, there's already white there. And what I've done is I've put it down, the print down without anything, and pulled it back out. So again, it gives you that idea of like seeing a few, but looking at the overall whole. And just it becomes this absolute mass of, it's parasites falling from the ceiling or coming out of the sky. And so he sort of ends up being he's the company man, like in Wayland Yutani. He's the company man who ends up with a poor fate. But he's sort of a villain, or he is a villain.
That's really cool. So you used that block print on there, but in two completely different ways, which is really neat.
Yeah, actually, so what I try to do, so this has to do more with the actual paint itself, but with acrylic, it has a lot of body to it, but it doesn't, I found it to be very slick. So I will often do a layer with acrylic first. And then that will get me very, very like sort of, I mean, you can see them, but once the oil's on top, they're very faint. So that's one layer of the additive reductive of these sort of silhouettes, if you will. And then I will go back in, and paint around it with oil and do the additive reductive like that as well. So there's multiple layers to it. And an easy example for that, if anybody plays Magic, is Insidious Roots. The card I did for Karlov Manor, is that right?
Yeah, Murders at Karlov Manor.
Yeah.
I'm pulling up an image.
Oh, sorry. I'm talking about things I didn't have with me. Yeah, so when you see that image, the whole inverted city, everything about the city, that's all linoleum prints, block prints. And Tatiana, would it work? Would it help if I picked up my phone and?
There we go. No, you're good. It just takes me a second to get it.
No. Would it help if I picked up my phone to like go around the painting?
Yeah, if you want to. When you're talking about it, I do bring up the image, the full image too. But
no, I haven't seen it. I just meant to show like the texture and everything.
Yeah, I think people would love to see that. I know a lot of people have seen your art in person, but if you have not seen Jeremy's art in person, there's a huge difference. And of course, if you missed seeing Jeremy's art at OAX this year, he was one of the first day announcements for next year. So you will get to see his art in person next year. Yeah, there's so much richness there that you can't tell just from like a quick photo or image of it.
And because this is related to OAX and collectors, in so much as the original painting versus the printed version. When I started to experiment with this graphic style, for a while, I thought, well, I'll just leave the gesso. If I'm going to leave everything white, I don't need to paint these areas, right? And I would kind of go back and forth and try and figure it out. And I had some, technical difficulties where it was like the white I used would dry warmer than the gesso itself, so it would look very obvious, things like that. But then one year at a show, somebody was telling me they loved seeing the texture underneath from the acrylic underpainting. Because I'm choosing tones that are going to complement or fight with whatever color goes on top, very purposely. And they said they really liked that. And, I'd always kind of felt that, but it was something that I always kind of tried to get rid of and make it sort of more of a stark white. So it depends ultimately for the print version, how distracting that sort of under texture under the white is going to be. But I have started to lean into that since then. I mean, it's been almost 10 years since that comment probably. But I've really started to lean into that now for those collectors that have my work. leaving those textures there, again, being very purposeful with the brush strokes, for the most part where needed. And, and again, yeah, and leaving that there because it is something in person that is very different. And I know it seems very simple sometimes when it's on print, but there's quite a lot of thought that goes into it.
So we have a comment about the ROM commission you did. We keep seeing so many different things in the painting he did for us. Every time the light hits it a different way. So for those of you who haven't seen it, it's there you go.
Yeah, I haven't seen that painting in a while personally. The buyers, they trusted me and my framer in town, and this younger guy has taken over the frame shop. So he found a frame that the owner, who's in poor health, he's not really able to work anymore. But he had made this totally custom frame, pour all the gesso on it himself, everything. And he found this beautiful silver leaf frame for it. It was a really cool painting to work on. First time working on aluminum. Not the first time working on metal, but it definitely had a little bit of a different feel to it. Felt a little less forgiving than the copper. But yeah, it was fun. There's 2 layers. So I talked to Scott Fisher, who's worked extensively on metal, and I did a good bit of research before actually painting on the metal. And what I found was, I forget what store I got it from, but the company who made it, I can't remember if it was Artifacts or what, but it's ready to go. You don't have to prep it or anything. With the copper, I do buff that with steel wool to get that like real big shine to come out, and I do it with a very fine one, so it's not too scratched up. But I do that with the copper. I didn't do it with the aluminum. I wasn't quite sure what to expect, and planning the values out for ROM was tricky. I wasn't sure exactly what sort of combination I should use. And what I ended up going with was a shadow, and then a fill light, which was this sort of very, bright blue, electric blue. And then I left the major light planes, the aluminum, because that's always how it kind of felt when looking at him in the comics. There was sort of this mid-tone. It was very light, but there was a sort of mid-tone when you looked at the general light shapes. There was a shadow, and then they always put white on for a fill light.
Mm-hmm.
So that was what I went with.
I feel like this is a piece that, like with a lot of the painting, paintings on metal. I own a Scott Fisher, giant painted on copper piece, and I have a painted on aluminum piece from Randy Vargas, and you can never quite capture what that looks like until you see it in person. So I'm going to have to go visit the Hagers at some point so I can see this in their house.
Yeah, I mean, even, taking photos and showing them was tricky. You're trying to capture it at this moment. And when working on metal, the first pass the metal is so slick. So I really hesitate to show anybody. It's just like the paint just slides everywhere. So you're really just kind of laying down your first base and then going in and finishing the rendering afterward. So I'm glad they trusted me through the whole process.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I didn't know. I mean, it would make sense as a substrate. It's that it would slide around. It's not like using paper or board or masonite or something that's designed for that.
Yeah.
All right, let me jump out of that.
So while we're talking about metal paintings, I mean, I can put up a metal painting.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
While Jeremy's swapping those out, I want to show you all really quick. This is the giveaway item. This is a Punisher painted sketch card. It's a sketch cards I had done for OAX. They're not the best quality, so, but the painting's great. There's just not, it's not a real thick card, but the painting's fantastic. Whoever wins it, I'll send you a couple of the new cards that I just got made too that are really nice, good quality. And I will throw the link into the chat for, I'm doing this as a Google form. Any of you who were on the last panel I did with Near, the website I was trying to use to pull didn't want to work. So there's the link in the chat for the Google form. You have until midnight to fill it out. So if you want to enter to win that painted sketch card from Jeremy, it's worth about $100. Definitely get your name in there. And I will remind you all again as well. Oh, I love this piece. All right, go ahead, Jeremy. Show us Storm.
So I hope, you got to help me out a little bit. But based on the lighting, you should see some of the shine from the copper. Again, talking about collectors, the original painting itself, I've really found that the copper it's very hard to capture. I mean, it really just becomes a different animal when it goes to print, more so than anything else. If anybody's familiar with Magic, again, I did a Planeswalker for Dragonstorm recently, and I mean, the original itself was this whole thing. And at the time, I couldn't capture just quite what I was trying to get with it. So the printed card had quite a lot of digital revisions on it. But it's just one more thing that I think is really cool for people to see in person. I started doing more because I did this one painting on copper, my first one, and it was hanging around the house and just, it was in the main room. So I'm seeing it dozens of times a day. And I just kept looking at it, and it's like this mirror-like quality. And so I really enjoyed that. And I think people tend to as well. My Dr. Fate image was sold at OAX. I mean, that one had a lot of bare copper on it. And then, ROM, and I have a few more. I did a Gunsmoke painting that's at a collector's house. So
this is the Magic card he's talking about, the new Elspeth from the last set. This piece is already sold. This is a banger card too. I was really happy to see you get this. This is the best Elspeth they've ever made, and your art is just killer. I'm jealous. The owner is got to be so happy because the shine that I can imagine they're getting on this in person has got to be incredible.
Normally what I do is with Magic, because it's at least a year out, I normally take it, and I used to just get so excited, and I've learned to just take the painting, put it back in a corner, and leave it there. And then when it comes back out, look at it again, because you can't show it, you can't talk about it, anything like that. Elspeth is one that I did keep out on the easel in my studio for the entire time until it came out. So
yeah, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I'm really happy for the owner. I had to purposely look away and not watch any of that sale stuff happening. I'm like, nope, don't do it. Can't do it.
I don't know if I'll ever work that big again on copper. Why I say that, I mean, it was still fun. It was just very time consuming because, again, you got to do 2 passes on everything. And it was fairly large, 19 by 25, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was kind of a heavy painting.
Yeah, my Scott Fisher is like 24 by 36. It's massive.
Yeah, and I don't know what he mounts his on. Mine are mounted on 1/4-inch masonite, so that the board itself is already, fairly heavy for something like that. So here's Storm. Again, I'll pick up my phone if that works.
Yeah,
And
this
it's always,
was it was great chatting with you about this piece as you were working on it, and you were talking about, here's where I want to let the copper shine through. And it's just, Aurora was such a perfect choice to work on copper because you can really bring out her accessories and then the lightning and it, with the set against the dark blues. And it's just, but then with the white in the front to pop it, it's just absolutely stunning. I can't believe this didn't sell.
You know, it will eventually. Is just been my sort of mantra for things now. It just has to find the right home.
If anyone's interested, reach
I
out.
was
I have the info at the end for Jeremy's art stuff, but reach out.
I was gonna say I very strategically picked pieces, Tatiana, to put on the easel that everything I've shown here is available. That I've shown is available. Um, and the only thing I would say is this one is spoken for a museum show. It is available, but it will be going to a museum show at the Matza Museum, which is like one of the biggest children's book collections in the country.
Oh, wow.
In Ohio for Dan Shadinsky's show. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell everybody in the chat, if you're not familiar with kind of how this works, it is a huge honor as an artist and as a collector to have a piece. Like I've bought pieces before where, you know, they've asked, well, can I hold on to this for a while because it's going to go in a gallery show or because I want to show it at X, Y, and Z. And as a collector, it's just a huge honor because it's so rare that other collectors get to enjoy the art that you own in person. You know, most of the time for us, you know, we're buying art directly from the artist. And so, you know, the artist sees it and we see it, you know, nobody else gets to see it in between. So many things, you know, most of Jeremy's stuff doesn't make it to, you know, going up at a show. So that's a huge honor. They're going to love seeing that piece at that gallery show. That's fantastic.
Yeah, you know, that's an interesting point. Mike Linneman said that to me at some point. You know, he was just talking about my magic work and artwork in general. And he was saying, you know, like, next time, can you not sell it so quick so like you can bring it to a show so people can see it? It's like, no, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, you can still sell it right away. Just a stipulation. You know, when I bought Thousand Year Storm from Donato a few years ago, he asked if he could hold on to it. He held on to it for like 6 months because he wanted to show it at some shows and he had some like studio tours. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. There's no way I was going to say no to that. So you just tell Mike, it'll just be a stipulation up front. We're selling this now. It's all yours, but I'm going to keep it. You know, I want to take it to this show or I want to show it at, you know, X, Y, and Z, but it's already sold.
It's just so tricky, you know, just being so busy. It's like if I let that happen, suddenly I'd have like just this pile of things, you know, like.
Oh yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah, we were talking about it with this Witcher project that I'm doing, the 56 cards, and you know, he was like, "Oh, you're like, what if you did like a show?" And I'm like, "Oh, that'd be great, but." You know, working a year on all these illustrations, like I got to move some of them out the door. You know what I mean?
Tell Mike that he can buy you a separate small house space that you can use.
I'm.
For those of you who didn't watch the magic panel at the last Cal, Mike Linneman's a good buddy of both of ours. Mike reps Jeremy's magic art sales, and I rep Jeremy's comic art sales, and Mike and I have been friends for a really long time too. And Mike does the magic. He's done some of the magic gallery shows, and he's a gallerist kind of in general. That's a lot of the work that he's doing in his regular life as well. So he always thinks about things in those terms. Hopefully he'll be doing some gallery work with us at OAX in the very near future. So trying to get that to happen.
Yeah.
I had a question in the chat. Stingray said, I need to get a commission from Jeremy at some point. And I will let you know that we are looking at, you know, the OAX schedule and when we can start offering pre-books. So keep an eye out for when we start doing announcements. We're going to start doing announcements for pre-books in general for OAX next month. And so I've already talked to a couple of my artists about it. And so keep an eye out for when we're able to put those up. And the thing that's great about this, since Jeremy, you were, you know, in the initial launch for the show, is that, you know, Jeremy gets a good amount of time to work on your commissions. So, you know, it's you can really get a nice full painting from him and know you're just going to get something killer. So keep an eye out for when we can start offering those. And we're being asked about the price on the Storm piece.
I don't see why I can't say that, right?
You can say that.
Okay. All right. You got to excuse me. I'm sitting here in my studio looking at a phone, talking to Tatiana. It's all very normal for me. So I'm not sure where it's going to. When it's at the Matsu, it's around 9,000 essentially. That's the asking for it. There is a little bit of flexibility on that.
Thank you. And we have a question. This is just an OAX question. Do we live stream it for who maybe can't bid online? What we do with OAX is, really we want people to be at the show. We do offer some early proxy bidding for some pieces of art that are, available early. So you do have an opportunity on some pieces. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be, a month or so before the show. But really, you want to be at OAX. Plus, you don't want to miss out because it's the best show. Not that I'm biased or anything, but it's the best show.
No, it was really cool. I've done quite a few shows over the years, mostly IX, but this was a really cool show. I got to see some things in person I never thought I'd see from past artists and things like that. But as far as what was actually there from the the attending artists was really cool.
Yeah, it's nothing makes me smile quite like being around all those amazing people and all that amazing art. And that's just the best combination for me.
And it still felt like fairly intimate. Like even though there were a lot of people there, it still felt like fairly intimate.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, even the way the rooms were set up and everything, I thought it was nice. People can come and hang out and talk, and we're going to be making sure to do that again for the next show. Stingray said he has to show you all of his Stingray commissions so you can see.
Off the top of my head, Stingray. Is that Aquaman villain? No.
He explained all of this to me at OAX, why he goes by Stingray, because they have same first name. I don't remember the character, though. I'm sorry.
No.
I know most things. I don't know the character.
I'm just glad it's not just me, because I know like getting in a comic art forum and then not knowing a character might be a faux pas, but
he's a Marvel hero.
Okay. I will look him up after this.
I mean, if you go on CAF, all you have to do is type in Stingray and you'll see all of his commissions anyway.
Okay, there you go.
All right, so what do you want to show next, Jeremy?
I mean, I can, show you pretty much, well, within reason, pretty much anything. But I do have one more Marvel cover here.
I did want to mention to everybody, I do have one piece of Jeremy's up in my booth for Comic Art Live this weekend. The price is ridiculously good, so grab it while you can.
What piece is that?
The Wolverine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I love it, but I have two large Witcher covers from Jeremy, and it needs to be in somebody else's home. It's such a gorgeous piece.
Yeah, if any Witcher fans, there is one cover left. I've been a little reticent to part with it. It is available, but it's the last one of the miniseries of 4.
It's issue 4, right? It's the last one?
Yeah, Tatiana's got the first 2, and then the third one went to a famous concept artist in Poland. So that was the longest I've ever had to wait on a painting in customs. It was like almost 4 months.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
It was that long?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they're all the same size. They're all 24 by 30. So it was also a pretty expensive shipment.
Oh, I'll bet.
Yeah.
I felt like mine was crazy enough and I was domestic. I'll show everybody what we're talking about there. So Jeremy did the covers for, this was the Witcher Fading Memories miniseries through Dark Horse. And so this is the last one that he has left, which is issue 4. So you are, if you are interested, feel free to reach out. Happy to chat about it.
I assume the ROM handle is Danny.
Yes, he's
Okay.
asking about the card.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can sort of vaguely talk about it. I'm doing a tarot. Well, this is my shallow research on tarot cards. It's an oracle deck, but it's through CD Project Red, um, and it's it looks like what it's going to be is it's going to be this gorgeous card deck of basically artwork. The frames already look really cool, the design frames and everything, and so I'm doing 56 cards for that. And so characters, locations, monsters, all sorts of things.
I know I'm going to end up with at least a couple of them, so I'm trying to be like super crazy, like ridiculously picky, because otherwise I'll end up with 50 of them.
I feel like the nude silhouettes of Geralt and Yennefer on the stuffed unicorn is probably going to be going to you.
Yes, yeah, that's the one from when you first told me about it, and you're like, "Oh, I'm doing this one." I'm like, "Yeah, I want that one. I don't care
Yeah.
what it looks like. I want that one."
And it's trailing graphic flowers, pink backgrounds. Yeah.
That's one of those for people who've played, the games and stuff. It's a super inside joke. They put it in the TV show a little bit, but
Yeah. Well, the briefs for these are super open-ended. I mean, they're literally giving me 2 words. I mean, it's like, okay, where do you put any of these characters? Some of them are easier than others, but I went back through and I played the game, and I chose, for instance, the flowers in the cutscene with the stuffed unicorn in Witcher 3. Those are the color flowers that are trailing behind the unicorn. So like everything is very much there's at least a few Easter eggs in at least every single image, pretty much. They're all going to be 12 by 16 for the originals.
oh, nice. So a little bit on the smaller side. So when I buy too many of them, they'll be easier to fit.
Yeah, yeah. I just finished Eskel and Lambert.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and when he's talking about like having 2-word descriptors, I mean it's like adjectives, like
yeah,
really, really brief information.
Danny, I caught your quick flash of a comment there. Yes, I am doing the 3 crones.
Yeah, I'm so excited. The ones you've done already are great. We can't show any of those.
Yeah, there would be a package deal for all 56. I would have to try and get Geralt back for somebody, or Geralt is already gone.
Yeah, that was a nice one for sure.
I know it wasn't Tatiana.
It wasn't me. I already have 2 giant Geralts. I have an entire like wall of Witcher covers. It adds up really fast.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, if anyone's interested in this Witcher cover, the last one Jeremy has from the mini series, feel free to reach out. Happy to chat about it.
And so this last one I've got here is a mini series called The Sentinels. Basically, what I was given was it's a team of ex-military or military backgrounds people that all have incurable diseases, and they're using the Sentinel nanobite technology to keep them alive and give them heightened powers and things like that. And they hunt down the worst of the worst as far as mutants. So a little bit like Suicide Squad type thing, because in the first issue they're hunting Omega Red, and it's definitely pretty, not over the top, but I mean it's definitely not for kids. But yeah, so in this one, it was just showcasing the the X layout. Yeah, I didn't. It was so tricky because the designs, the way that I painted, or the way that I knew I was going to paint the designs, and losing, forgive me, I forget their characters' names, but the guy on the top there, I was like, oh, he's going to look so much like Cable. Is that going to be a problem? I'm sure they said the same thing on their end. And then with the X composition, it was like, is it just going to be in like an X Factor or whatever it was? But anyway, yeah. So in this one, the concept is, as far as composition goes, is far more simple. It's placing them all together, as this unit, as this team. And yeah, it was really fun to work on. They had some turnarounds for this one, which was nice, some concepts. So I had some visuals to work with.
Oh, good. That's always
Yeah.
really helpful.
And they did a Virgin, what do you call it, variant for it as well. Like I got two different types of copies. I got one with the trade dress and one totally without. So
I feel like all of your covers need to have a Virgin variant. That is always be cooler without the trade dress on there.
I have noticed that is what I'm getting hired for. My Poison Ivy cover was, well, I mean, it's only got a little bit of trade dress on it, but it's supposed to be those Virgin variants or whatever they're called.
Yeah. Yeah, your art looks really good when it's featured like that, because it's, so the graphicness of the image and everything. So I'm glad that we recognize that and are giving you that work.
Yeah, I just wish they'd tell me, because I do design for text.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like, just tell me that I don't need to leave that space and that I can just... Well, I mean, I guess with this one, if they did both, then it makes sense. But
I have to make it work either way. So that's always a consideration, as something's going out the door or as I'm thinking. I'm just used to working with book covers a lot too, where it's like, I mean, you're having, I'm sending in a sketch or something and I'm getting a mock-up of where the text is going to go. And, sometimes it's quite the minutia of how something needs to move or whatever, to make sure everything works well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that you have to really be thoughtful about how you map everything out.
Oh yeah. Well, that's how I paint anyway, or before I paint.
So I just wanted to share with everybody the pieces that Jeremy showed on his easel today are all currently available. You can go, that's the direct link to his page on the TD Art Gallery website, or if that's too many letters and numbers to remember, you can just go to tdartgallery.com, and on the left side there is the repped artists in a column, and Jeremy's easy to find because he's all the way at the bottom. It's alphabetized by last name.
Oh, that's very convenient, Tatiana. I'm at the bottom because it's alphabetized.
At the bottom, You know what? It's better to be at the bottom than in the middle, right? Because then you just know, just boom, straight to the bottom of the list. It's easy.
Yeah.
Right.
I have gotten used. I don't know. I feel like my work stands out enough that, people know what they're looking for.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then I just put in the chat again, the Google form, and I just put it on the screen to remind everybody you have until midnight tonight to fill that out, to enter to win the painted Punisher sketch card. And I think before we wrap up, does anybody have any questions? Jeremy, was there anything else you wanted to share or talk about?
I don't know what your exact time frame is. I can't see my clock.
We have about 4 or 5 minutes left.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we could do some questions if you want.
I bet Stingray's probably like researching how he wants to request his commission from you right now.
I gotta look up Stingray. Almost anything, I can't keep up with it all the time, but anytime I see Alex Ross on something, I pick it up. So I've got the DC and the Marvel Encyclopedia, so that's what I'm going to go to first.
Oh yeah, he just does the most epic, big shots of like the whole teams, and he's really, really good at that. Well, I don't see any questions in the chat, but what I do want to add is, Jeremy, can you remind me what your Instagram handle is?
I am Jeremy Wilson Art everywhere, or everywhere that I'm at.
So I just put that in the chat as well, so you can check out when Jeremy posts images and other things shared up on social media, which he does pretty regularly. And then, you know, get ready to enjoy his art in person at OA Expo. And if you have any questions about any of Jeremy's art, you're welcome to reach out anytime. And we're being asked if you're going to be at San Diego Comic-Con.
You know, I've been pushing more to do more mainstream type comics. You know, I've done Witcher, Plunge, horror stuff, you know, and all that. So that is an aspect that I'm pushing for as far as my overall body of work. I would love to go, but I will not be there this year, as far as I know.
Do you have any other shows lined up for this year?
No, I'm not doing IllexCon this year. I may try and do the showcase, but I mean, OAX was a fabulous show all around for me. So that's it right now. I also have about 54 illustrations due by the end of August. So, I mean, you know, my face is like draining of color.
Yeah, you're pretty busy at the moment. Got to stay home and get it done.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us today and showing us showing and explaining your process. I think that was really helpful and really insightful. And I'm excited for everyone to get to see all this art in person at OAX next year, and then reference back to this panel and remember some of the things you talked about with technique. And, you know, you can always ask Jeremy questions at his booth at the show as well. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, good luck getting away once you ask me a question.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.